Today I want to share with you an important theme in John's Gospel, and that is what happens when Jesus is lifted up. This is a theme we see multiple times in the Gospel of John. Our verse for the day is from chapter 12, verse 32, where Jesus says, "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." Now he's saying this just days before his crucifixion, when he will be lifted up on the cross. But it's not the first time he's used this image or this language in the Gospel of John. Back in chapter 3, where Jesus is talking with Nicodemus, who comes to him by night to ask Jesus some questions, Jesus says in John 3:14, "And just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life." And then in chapter 8, in verse 28, it says, "So Jesus said, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will realize that I am he, and I do nothing on my own, but I speak these things as the Father instructed me." So just in these three passages from John 3, John 8, and John 12, we hear this image of when I am lifted up. It's like that's when everything's going to start to finally come into focus. Until the crucifixion, the disciples don't get why are things going the way they're going? Why is Jesus doing everything that he's doing? And even the crucifixion is not the end of the story, because it requires the resurrection to really understand fully what's happening. But in John 12, we're told that he said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die. And he goes on then to talk further about it. So this image of when I am lifted up in John's gospel is a way for John to say this was part of God's plan all along. John, among the four gospels, presents Jesus as knowing the most, being in the most control, that it's not that he was a victim in any way, that Jesus knows what's going to happen from the beginning. And in a sense, in the four Gospels, John has what I would call the highest Christology. John, in many ways, emphasizes Jesus' divinity a little bit more, I would say, than some of the other Gospels that were written closer to Jesus' earthly life. But I want to end by just emphasizing what Jesus says, that when he's lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. We are a church that seeks to lift up Jesus in our worship, in our ministry, and when we do that, we draw all kinds of people. People at the bottom of the lowest rung of the socioeconomic ladder to people at the top. People on the political right to people on the political left and everywhere in between. People who have very little formal education to people who have PhDs. We see God drawing all kinds of people to our church because we're lifting up Jesus. And at the foot of the cross, we are all equal.